Hello, welcome to another episode of Watercolor videos with me. This is Sunil Kalpandi. Today I'm going to do another a landscape. This one is a little bit of a barn in the field and then a couple of hay blocks in the front. Okay, so I'm using a quarter sheet and the pencil I'm using at the moment is a 6B pencil. It's soft, but I can be as dark as possible. And if you look at the reference photos, there's no clear indication of where the sun is, but I'm going to put in a shadow, or I will pick a light source and then we can go from there. And also this particular video, I recorded the audio, but for some reason the audio is not recorded, so I'm just post recording it. So I'm just assuming what's running in my head and I'm talking about it. Okay, so we will go, and then also this video was recorded a while ago, so it's not fresh in my mind, and we'll see how I will do a job of recording it. Also, if you guys are new to this channel, welcome. Also, there's an exciting news. I have a new podcast called Wet on Wet, which has 4 episodes already premiered. Great artist. There's Don Miller. There's Sebastian. Not Sebastian Tomel is coming next. There is Sahil. There is Lauren McCracken. There is Daniel Martinez. There's 4 videos, full length, relaxed video. Great watercolor artists talking about watercolors. The goal is to extract tips, tricks, and advices which we can apply in our own watercolor life. Fantastic conversation. People are so generous, all the 4 artists. So you should check out their work. You should check out the podcast, and it's fun. So there is more podcasts coming up. And here, as you can see, I'm just taking my time to make sure the perspectives are correct, and also the houses are house, barn, vineyard, something in the farmhouses are correct. And I'm drawing some reference landscapes. And keep in mind, it's like when I use a photo reference, I'm not trying to be on the dot precise. So I'm going to tweak it as and when I feel fit. I put in some cypress trees. Maybe there's 1 or 2 trees extra. Because I feel as this is somewhere Mediterranean. That particular style of houses is not in UK. I'm based in UK, and I'm going to start putting in those hay bales. This is a square hay bale instead of a round hay bale, what you see out in the countryside. It's very hot here in UK for a change. We like it. The kids are moaning that it's too hot. We had to get the fan out of the shed. We usually never use fan over here, but we had to get the fan out. And then I'm showing my hands over there. I'm not sure what it is. Also, when you're recording, is it just me or people find it hard to just keep talking? Because one of the things I heard from, I watch a lot of chess Twitch videos, chess videos, especially from Hikaru Nakamura. So he made a point that he's always talking, because you don't know when the new subscribers or a new viewer joins in, and you don't want a lull in the video. So I'm always trying to think about that particular topic. He does really well as a YouTuber and a Grandmaster. I'm using cerulean blue. If you didn't see, I'm using a little bit of cobalt blue and cerulean blue. So there is cobalt and cerulean blue mixed in. The first couple of them was cerulean blue. I'm mixing in. I think I might have picked up cerulean blue by mistake. So I'm going through cobalt. I'm using a number 8 mop. That's a natural hair, squirrel hair. Super soft, but also the workhorse when it comes to painting. So there's lots and lots of water. Every painting, doesn't matter what the painting is, you can always do it in 4 steps, thinking at least in 4 steps. Number 1 is the drawing. Number 2 is the first wash. Number 3 is the middle tones of the second wash and the highlights. Okay, so every painting you can break it down into first wash, second wash, highlights, and the drawing, of course. your painting will get better and better as your drawing gets better. At the moment, I'm just mixing in some burnt umber and raw umber. Very light, they are very translucent. I didn't clean the brush, it still has a hint of blue, but it's a very translucent paint. It goes really well if you are building layers. Any of the raw umber and burnt umber, they're good for earthy tones. Very light, not anything overpowering. Okay, so then again you can see the quality of the brush. I've been using that brush for over 10 years. There's a couple of zip ties and it has got character. That's perfectly fine, but every time I look at a new quality brush, I feel like I should buy some new brush, but I can't justify myself why should I buy just because it's got a couple of cable ties. It works really well. And also every time I take a workshop, it's always a story I can tell people that it's an investment, get into a good brush, and if you look after the brush, it will last for a very long time. So I don't particularly look after really well, but the brushes are these days, they will last for a long time, especially watercolor, not like acrylic and oil where you lose dozens of brush every year. Okay, so that's my first wash. I'm quickly drying it. Quick dry, I'm switching to one of those calligraphy brush. I'm so used to drawing with calligraphy brush, and also when you look at the length, usually they are a little longer. I just cut the length so that it can fit the box, or make them every same size so I can carry. So I'm mixing in some sap green and viridian green with a little bit of ultramarine, and also I'm putting in some burnt sienna. So I'm just trying to get some earthy tones for the plant. Yeah, I'm just checking the color. So it's more like a olive green than a fresh green. When you look at and I've added a little bit of lemon yellow. I'm switching back to the brush. I'm not sure why. I'm picking up some burnt cerulean blue, and there's some gray in the paper. Well, I think I'm trying to do a mountain range which is not there. I don't know why I wanted to put in a mountain range, but hey, well, I'm not going to argue with me. So there is a mountain range, very light. That's one of the backgrounds. The justification I'm assuming is just to give a little more contrast to the building, but it's not there, part of the reference drawing. Okay, and I'm spluttering some colors just to give some texture. It's always wise to just cover the top part when you're spluttering, and then don't be lazy like me where you splutter and then you have to go back and then dry it. Quickly drying, and then now I'm going to come back to the trees if I can. No, I'm doing something else. Well, I'm telling where the sunlight is. The sunlight for this painting is top left hand corner, because we need a light source, and all the shadows are based on that particular light source. So I'm trying to make it a little more earthy by adding some burnt sienna. So if you recall, it had viridian green, sap green, burnt sienna, and that yellow, a little bit of Indian yellow. So I'm just trying to go through the first layer. So this one is a second layer. When you look at it, this is not a wash. This is a lot more harder. Or think about this like a double cream consistency. So it's not runny, a lot more deeper tone. And within that, this is my first layer. I try to have at least 3 tones to give that 3D effect. Again, I'm just mixing in some sap green, some burnt sienna. I'm just being careful over the edges. And again, this is a quick painting. The sheet is quarter sheet, if I already said. You can finish this painting under 30 seconds. 30 minutes, what am I saying? 30 seconds, 30 minutes. This is a I'm not rushing. If I have to rush, you can do a little more quicker. I'm not rushing. I'm just taking it easy. And this is a very good painting for a beginner to try, right? You don't, if the houses are complicated for you to draw, you could either trace it using a grid or make the houses fewer. So I'm just using the side of the brush to get that grass effect. You're using the full width of the brush just to get some of the side effects. And I'm doing a cypress, it's just one wick. Be confident, just go straight. A little more sap green, burnt sienna. I'm using the full width. And I'm altering the height so that you get asymmetric. There's nothing wrong with being symmetric, but I kind of like it being a little asymmetric. And then you are continuing with all the greens at the moment. So I'm putting in some gray. That's my second tone. Adding some shadows. Remember the light source is top right hand corner. And then you're adding shadows or a little more depth inside the trees. I'm drinking a rose lemonade. It looks pretty, but it doesn't taste good. But I got lots of ice cubes. I like having a nice glass of either a water or maybe a Diet Coke when I'm recording. In fact, the best time to record or paint for me is to listen to the podcast. But because I have to talk while I'm doing, it is not as fun, but I still love to paint. In all honesty, if I had to paint, I would just listen to a podcast or listen to or watch a movie which I've watched a million times so that I don't have to pay attention. I think one of the movies I watch plenty of times is Valerian and the Thousand Planets. I watched that. I watch a lot of the Fugitive series. I watched the Born Identity series. Some of these movies I've watched them multiple times because it's comfort. So you can see I'm just using the back of the blade to make some chimneys. The chimney is not there, but against the dark backdrop, it's nice to do. And again, these days, there's such good quality TV and movies these days. It's always a challenge to watch or not watch. I would like to watch all of the Ghibli studio movies, so I get to watch. I take a lot of screenshots, just marvel how good the quality of the artwork is. And then sometimes I have to stop myself instead of just watching others to get trying. So I pick an artist and then I try to copy just to understand how and why they're doing, and that gives you a good perspective. Okay, so the top right corner, so the front walls will have the shadow. I don't know whether you can hear the jingling of the ice cube. There will be a shadow in the front walls. Little bit of ASMR. So when you do it, I use the side of the brush just to add a little bit of colors. Recently I've stopped using any of the synthetic brush. I just use those calligraphy brushes. I'm so used to it. It holds plenty of pigment. I think it's once you get used to it, you can play around with it. I got really some good Kolinsky sable brushes and other things. I haven't used it in like a long time. If I haven't used a brush in like 6 to 7 months or a year, chances are I'm not using it. So I just go back to the same old brushes and then just try to make a painting with those kind of things, is because they are like They fit like a glove. I'm used to it. I know how soft they are. Only thing for a lot of these paintings, I use a John Pike palette. It's much more bigger, but for YouTube, you can see all the colors. I tend to use the smaller Mijello. I think it's a South Korean brand. So I'm just taking my time, changing the warmth of the roof, slightly different tone. When you look at the photo, it looks all the roofs are the same texture, but I'm just mixing it up. It's just I'm trying to think that it's going to make the painting a little more interesting. Okay. There's no window, but I'm adding a couple of windows. I think that's the most of the things I want to do for the house. Oh, there's a little bit of shadow on that one. Nice shadows from the foliage. A couple of roof lines. So you're just having fun with what's going on with it. So, but with the, I've been looking at some of the playing around with AI to see how it generates watercolor. But fortunately, at the moment, I can still make out AI watercolor painting compared to traditional ones. I feel it's the edges, the giveaway telltale time is the edges, places where there are soft edges, where an artist would make some soft edges. The computer is not 100% sure whether it should make soft edges because most of the edges are very sharp. And also the composition looks like more like a calendar, so it's very consistently like a calendar. It's very good. I mean, it's amazing, especially if you want to play around just to see how a watercolor painting might look like for the given photo. I think it's a good tool. You still need to paint anyway, but it's so much better in creating. And like the Ghibli style paintings, the watercolor painting, they're still far away to do. But also, I'm not bitter about AI tool. I think people who's gonna survive in a long run is somebody who knows how to use the AI tool for your own advantage. I have thousands and thousands of photos. Maybe I can use some of the photos, ask AI to pick the ones which you think might do the best watercolor, right? It helps you to navigate through thousands and thousands of photos. Maybe why not? Okay, at this stage, I am adding the shadows so we know where the shadows are. The sun or the light source is on the top left hand corner. And by adding those shadows, so we know clearly it's a sunny day, and we're just cheating the reference photo a little bit. Yeah. So the advantages I can think about is you can generate good photos, and then you can use that as a reference for your watercolors. As a second case scenario is you can select photos within your library, hundreds and hundreds. Every time, if I don't use it in the next 10 days, I don't remember. Every time we go. I think that's another one. And also the third thing is just a section which you think is difficult. You can generate some AI watercolors just to see how it breaks it down. Okay. It's an interesting place where we are right now. And I'm using a stiff brush. That one is raw umber and burnt umber, very stiff, and I'm just doing a couple of grass. So I'm picking up it was too dark. I picked up some yellow ochre. And if you look at the way I'm holding the brush, I'm holding all the way at the end just to get better control. So because the grass or the hay or the wheat or the barley, whatever, it'll be cut in a row. So the grass needs to be parallel, the first line parallel to the first line. While I'm doing each line, I'm adding a little bit of shadow just to make sure that the grass doesn't look flat. So I'm just scratching, hitting, and then pulling up. So that brush is quite rough, so you need to be quite, it's not a delicate operation. I'm being quite rough and rude. And then also keep in mind, as the perspective, the length of the grass, I'm reducing it as well, or at least being conscious about trying to make it a little less taller. And as we go back, we don't need to have more and more details. I'm just being a little more quick about it, so you don't need to see all the details. Yeah, you can still see the lines, but only the foreground has more details. I'm switching to another brush, adding some splutter or some texture. Couple of shadows and the backdrop. I'm using the side of the brush. It kind of gives you a broken edge. And we are coming almost to the end of the video or the show. I think we got a couple more minutes. And again, if you still watching with me, thank you. Do appreciate if you can go check out Wet on Wet. I hope you'll enjoy as much as I enjoyed just having a chat with those master watercolor artists, their journey, how they got into it. There's a lot of good advice, which is you don't, because there's no other lot of interviews from watercolor artists, and somebody who's new to watercolor, I think you can jumpstart your career by just listening to some of these watercolor artists. And then again, if there's any comments or other things, do put in a comment what questions to ask. I'm happy to ask. I'm adding some small birds. Yeah, the shadow on the roof, which was too wet back then, I'm adding some shadows on the roof. And I'm just squinting my eyes. I'm guessing at that stage I generally squint my eyes just to check how the shapes look like. The chimney, shadow from the chimney. I think that's it. Wonder what I'm painting at the moment. I'm still mixing some gray. Some shadows to the cypress trees. Couple more. Another tree. Just flick some brush. Last final hairdryer. And I'm gonna sign. And that's about it. Let me peel the painting. It's always a nice sound when you peel the painting. Also, it's satisfying for two reasons. One, it looks good with a nice frame, but also the satisfaction that the painting is complete. That's the beauty of what watercolor is. In 30 minutes, from a white paper, you can do something this good in 30 minutes. It's so versatile. I love watercolor. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again in the next class, next video. Bye.